Oh, hi. Oh, the live chat isn't showing. What happened? Well, anyway, don't care about the live chat. Maybe I will just keep looking at the live chat. So, this live is my first live. I'm very nervous because I don't know who is listening, and probably there are listeners from all around the world. So this live would mainly be in English, but I can also read Chinese and a little bit Japanese. So you can comment in Chinese, and I can still understand what you say, and I can respond in your language. So, welcome and greetings. So, I'm Saluli, and I'm going to talk about the enemy scene search engine I've made, and here it is. Well, every year I gave talk about this project in different conference or venues, and I've been doing this since 2016. And hello, David. Thank you for coming. This year, due to the coronavirus issue, many of the conferences are either suspended, postponed, or cancelled. So we ain't going anywhere. So I have to figure out some other ways to present updates to this project. And the virtual YouTube bus stop is quite popular these days, so why not try using YouTube as a new platform to share it? But it's my first time to have such talk globally, because YouTube is open to the world except some countries. So sorry, I'm getting nervous. Anyway, this year when I prepared this talk, I just figured it out. Hello, Dot Wong. Hi. Thank you for coming. When I started preparing these slides, I just figured out that it is already the 5th year this project has started 5 years ago, and it has been running quite a long time, longer than what I expected. Because originally I thought there would be a lot of trouble when I started this project. Maybe performance issue, space issue, or license issues. There are many things that could probably come into trouble. But then 5 years and it's still running, so it's quite amazing. Thank you for coming. And enough chit chat. So let's start. Yeah, I hope this live won't last longer than an hour. I think there are about 20 to 30 slides only. Okay, so let's give a brief history of this project first. So in 2015, it is the first version of what's enemy.ga went live, and it is in late 2015, so not many of the people actually know that it went online. And until 2016, more people get to know with this search engine, and many of them think that it is something that came out of 2016, but in fact it is a year earlier. In 2016, I've developed a web extension and Telegram bot, and that helped generate quite a number of traffic back then. Yeah, because people won't suddenly go search for a website by its URL, but then they may try to discover interesting extension or Telegram bots on some platform. So this is probably some way they discovered this search engine. And a year later, I've developed an API for what's-enemy.ga, and also added some features like auto black border cropping, and also added a video preview for Telegram bot. In 2018, there was quite a big trouble because of the .ga top-level domain. .ga is a free domain, and maybe some of their terms of service forbid some kind of use. I'm not sure what was the actual reason they suspended the .ga domain, but that they just suddenly suspend the entire domain, so I have to move to a new one. And then I moved to trace.moe, and I have to update a lot of URLs and ask different extension authors, bot developers, and ask them to update the domain. Oh, BGM is too loud. Wait a second. Is the volume okay now? Yeah, in 2018, I've also added a new server, and improve performance quite a lot, and also added a natural scene cutting, which is usually used for Telegram bots, and also open source Solar, so other developers may create their own search engine using their own data. And last year, I've rewrite the front end of the web page and improves the web page loading time. And there are also some speed optimization being done last year, and also doubled the RAM of the server, and made quite a lot of API update last year, and there is still API updates this year. So the details I'll go through in upcoming slides. You can also see presentation slides in my GitHub. So if you want to know how does this search engine works, or how I make this search engine, you better refer to all the older slides, because this slide is I will be focusing on updates this year and last year. So I don't want to go through all the details I've gone through all these years. So you may want to check those slides. Let me show some data first. So this is a figure from 2017, and that year the web page has about 1 million page views. This is the data collected from Google Analytics, and the Chrome extension users is around 5K. Yeah, so it's about 1.5 years after the Chrome extension released. It already has 5,000 Chrome extension users, and back then there are about 40K monthly active users, about 2,000 daily users, and the Telegram bot has about 8,000 monthly search from various parts of the world, I think. Yeah, this figure is quite accurate, I think. But for the for Google Analytics result, maybe there are some users who have installed some anti-tracking extensions, so not sure if the figure is accurate. But the Telegram bot search results should be accurate enough, because that is an internal count instead of a client-side count. So how is going now? Page view 9 million, so 9 times more now. This is the figure from Google Analytics. But as I say, Google Analytics may be a bit inaccurate, because some of the browsers start having privacy features that enabled by default, so maybe the actual count is a bit higher, but should be around this figure, I think. Now the Telegram bot has searched 4 million search. This is a lifetime count, so since the very beginning, it has already served 4 million search just by the Telegram bot. Yeah, and there are another 2.2 million search via API, usually for third-party apps or bots. Yeah, this includes various bots from developed by different developers, such as Discord, Line, or Facebook, or some other. There are also VK bots, I think. web extension users about double, XK for Chrome and 1000 for Firefox. And monthly active users, it's a lot more now, about 100,000 monthly active users, 5,000 per day. Yeah, and monthly active users about 300,000. This is the figure from Cloudflare. So you see that there is a difference between Google Analytics and Cloudflare's Analytics. But Cloudflare also count the traffic served for bots, web crawlers, and search engine. So if you want to count actual human users, I think that would be the figure between the GA and Cloudflare's Analytics. Somewhere between these two, I think. Yeah. And now that the search engine is serving 47,000 search per day. Yeah, so imagine every 2 seconds there will be a search request served by the search engine now. So that is quite a lot of traffic now. So enough data, I think you are going to fall asleep. So this is a screenshot I've taken out from some of the archive I have recorded. And this is the very first version of this search engine, and it's taken in 2015 November. And back then, many of the application is still in a very early stage. You can see that there is just HTML5 player, video player, and a text field for image URL. Yeah, and at that moment the database is still indexing that tons of videos. So this is the very first early prototype that try to demonstrate if it is possible to turn a screenshot into a video. Yeah, and about a month later, when all the videos are being indexed and loaded into the database, so now we have a complete data set of all indexed enemy, and this is when enemy.ga went live. Yeah, you can see that there is not much UI design. Everything is black and white and just text and controls. And this is the very minimalistic design. Yeah, but at least this is the first functional version that is started to be useful. Oh, you can see that the screenshot is also having the old version of Chrome here. And by the end of 2015, I've also added analyst information. So it can show enemy titles of different languages. Yeah, such as Japanese and English titles, not just the Chinese translation of the enemy name. And this is how it's going now. Today we have Emily's lean fold in the middle if you have a wider screen. And aside from video preview, you also have a thumbnail preview of all the other search results. And now we support mobile layout and also dark theme And there are also some other features like filter by enemies ID and safe search function, something like that. So big change throughout these 5 years. So now I have to go through the updates this year. This year we have a lot more users, more than double. Comparing 2020 and 2019, both users and page view doubled. Yeah, maybe because of the lockdown, so many of you have more time spent at home for internet, so maybe that's why. Yeah, but this figure is also a lot more than I expected. Usually year by year growth is about 20 to 30%, but this year the growth is crazy. Yeah, and that will support new image proxy. I'll go through this later. Image proxy is quite a bit of trouble, and I'll talk about it later. The most important feature updates to this year is the new search algorithm, JCD, and I'll go through it later. Yeah, I also cleaned up a lot of duplicated enemy this year. It's a very tedious job because there are tens of thousands of files I have to organize, and it's quite a lot of computing power to re-index those enemies. So, but we have quite a lot of spare time this year because I can work from home, so making a good progress there. And I've also changed hard disk, router switches and cases. Quite a lot of hardware changes this year. So what's left is CPU and memory remains the same. Not much changes on CPU and memory. And I also set up an automatic failover network this year. I'll explain later. And trace.moe API updates. Lots of change. Search by file, search by form post, or search by image URL are all supported now. And you can also use image URL or video URL now. So maybe this would help developers a lot if they want to make their applications easier. I also removed quota limit this year. I'll explain it later. Okay, so image descriptors. You may just call it algorithms, but in fact it is a way of how images are being recognized, or how image features are being extracted. In 2017, I've compared different image descriptors provided by Lyra. So we can see each column here represents a different search algorithm, and you can see CL car layout, which is the default image descriptor that trace.moe is using now. It's on the left, and JC is on the third row. So this experiment tries to crop or flip or add some black borders to the image and see if the image descriptor can can withstand such change. So we can see some image descriptor doesn't really make sense. Like OH and ACCE, they just doesn't give the best result. And after the experiment, I've picked JCD because it seems to have quite stable results, and it can withstand changes in mirrored image and partially cropped image. This kind of image is usually quite challenging for color layout because color layout is quite a simple way of analyzing an image. But with JCD, it also takes texture into account, so it takes a bit more computing power to achieve that, but it would be able to match images that is not that similar. Yeah, but at least it makes more sense to human. Yeah. Hopefully I would have more time to explain it in detail, because the actual algorithm is quite complex. I don't think I can explain everything in a few minutes. So image proxy is also a trouble. But first, let me explain why there is a proxy. So in this graph, you can see here is an API server. An API server has an IP that must be kept secret. Yeah, so think of the client send the API server an image URL, and then the API server have to fetch that image, and while the server fetched the image, it would expose the API server's IP. Yeah, usually API requests are served via Cloudflare, so the client would just have to talk to the edge server of Cloudflare CDN. So you will only see the Cloudflare's IP. Yeah, this is how the API server's IP is being protected. But then when the API server make a HTTP request to a third-party server, then it is a potential leak of the origin server's IP. And if the IP is leaked, then the server is in danger. Maybe prone to attacks from DDoS or some other hacks. So that's why I put a proxy here. An API server would ask the image proxy to download the image for the API server. And the image proxy's IP is okay to be exposed because that is usually an IP address of a cloud VPS or other VPS service. So, and now that the image proxy is being hosted by Cloudflare workers, yeah, I did try different approach hosting this image proxy. In the beginning, I used Linux server, but then I still don't want my own VPS server's IP address to be exposed. So later on, I moved to Vercel, set up now, and about 3 months or 3 to 4 months, I think, they suspended my service because they said using proxy for their serverless framework is forbidden in their terms of service. So I switched back to Cloudflare Workers now. But using Cloudflare Workers, oh, by the way, Cloudflare Worker is also a serverless framework, serverless provider. Anyway, but Cloudflare's Workers has issue connecting to some other Cloudflare served websites, such as Discord. So when the Cloudflare Workers fetch an image on Discord's server, it seems to be blocked by some rules. Not sure the reason why, but it just doesn't work. So the way I work around this is to have a whitelist domain in API server, so that when the API server notices that this image URL is safe to fetch directly from the API server, then it would pass the image proxy and fetch that image directly. Yeah, so unless you have access to Discord's image server's log, you won't be able to get the API server's original IP address. Yeah, so this is the story, and this is how things are being set up now. In future, maybe I can add some more whitelist servers. But as long as you found image that's serving the same domain that doesn't work on image proxy, you need to tell me what's the image address you are having problem, and I will investigate. Okay, so let's talk about bots. Actually, the first bot that's being developed for bot enemy is Facebook bot. I developed it in 2016, and it is a working version already. But Facebook requires this bot to be reviewed manually, and the review failed because the reviewer doesn't know what this bot is doing, even though I explained it very clearly with videos, with paragraphs, text, image, explain it to the staff, everything, but they still don't think that this bot is useful. So they rejected my submission, and that's it, and I gave up. If any of the developers are interested in developing a real published Facebook bot, then you can still try, but I'm out of patience. I don't want to deal with their stuff anymore, so this has never been released to public, and it's only in development, and now everything's abandoned. So goodbye, Facebook. And Telegram bot, this is the bot that is developed by me, so it always have first class features. So any changes in the trace.moe API would requires updates to the Telegram bot will be updated as soon as possible. So if you are bot developers of trace.moe, you better take a look at the way this bot is written, because this should be the most appropriate way to use the API. You can also reference some other features like users rate limit. There is a Telegram specific rate limit for the bot, not the rate limit of the API, but the bot itself, because it is identifying Telegram users by their ID instead of their IP. So I suggest developers to take a look. And there are also some hidden commands that I think not being documented. If you send an image with a comment called mute, it will send the image preview in a mute format. And Telegram would treat mute videos as GIF. So somehow this becomes a automatic GIF cutter. You can play it with that. And you can send it with a comment with a JC, and it will search the image using the JCD image descriptor instead of the default color layout one. So in case your image are cropped, or in case the default search result doesn't work as expected, you may try to add a comment called JC to your image and send to the Telegram bot and see what happens. So go try it yourself. Lastly, the Discord bot. This is not a bot developed by me, and it's actually developed by Ureo. And I'm not familiar with Discord's API, so if there is any question about the Discord bot, please contact him instead of me. And I don't have source code of this bot too, so if you want to have a Discord bot of your own in your own Discord server, you better ask him. Okay, API updates. I think the trace.moe API is a lot more easier now. Back then, you have to use some very complicated methods, such as base64, and then create a form and then embed it in your URL post form, and then send a post form message to the API endpoint. And there's quite a lot of trouble converting images to base64, and there are also file size limit issues. But now you don't even need a post API call. You can just get an image URL. So in this example, you can just copy the URL and open it in Chrome and see what happens. Yeah, since the API call can actually be used without an API token, so you can just open the URL and see. The rate limit would be counted by IP address. Yeah, so if you are not an intensive user, you can casually use the API without registering an API token. Yeah, so now a one-line command can give you a search result of your image. As long as your image is accessible publicly, or you upload it in some other third-party image hosting service, then it will just work. So take a look at how the data size is 4 years ago. So 4 years ago, there are 2,095 enemy series in database, about 15,000 hours in total. Size is about 1.4 terabytes. And now that's in 2020, we have found out over 5,000 enemy series and almost 30,000 hours in total. And the size is about 3 times larger, 21 terabytes now. If I recall correctly, back in 2016, there is no single hard disk that can store that much data. And now that 4 years later, still, there is no a single hard disk that can store the entire database. Yeah, so I have to keep using multiple hard disks to store all the original video files. So 4 years ago, the database has around 400 million frames indexed in the Solr database, which is the database of the index. The size was about 76 gigabytes. And now that the size is about doubled. Yeah, if you consider the size of color layout, you can see that it's increased from 76 gigabytes to 100 something, 130. Yeah, and with the introduction of the new GCD color descriptor, the total number of frames increased by 1 billion. Yeah, cause GCD is a more complicated indexing method, and the duplication ratio isn't that much compared to color layout. So the data size is a bit more than the color layout one. So now that we have two different image descriptors indexed in database, so both combined to form a 1.7 billion frames index database, so 422 gigabytes, and it is an in-memory database somehow. So the very early photos of the original search engine's server, yeah, you can see that it is just a typical PC. Nothing really special, except that you can see a lot of hard disks here. I think these are 4 terabytes hard disks. Yeah. So that was in RAID configuration, and it has a 4th generation i7 4-core CPU with 32 gigabytes of RAM. And performance issue was quite bad with such machine, because it can map the entire database in memory. And how it's going now? So a lot more powerful servers now, with a dual socket Xeon E5 CPU. We have more than 10 times the number of CPU cores now, and memory, a lot more, half a terabyte of memory, so we can keep that 400 gigabyte Solr database entirely fits into the memory. Yeah, so search time is more stable now. I don't see any search processing time that takes longer than 30 seconds now. Yeah, unless there are in rush traffic. And there are hard disks hidden behind. This is a new computer case, and hard disk is being stored at the back of the case, so you can see it. You cannot see it here. And hard disk size is larger, so I don't have to make a huge array of hard disks to store these video files. Yeah, and maybe also help generating less heat and consume less power now. And this board also have a 10 gigabit network, so maybe help transferring files a bit faster now. So this is the network equipment I have set up about half a year ago, a few months ago. So this is the new router with a 4-back network, and on the right there is a tiny metal case. That one is a 10 gigabit switch. 4 ports are running 4 SFP ports running 10 gigabit network, and it's connected to the router. This router has no Wi-Fi. It is just a router. Nothing fancy. And you can see there are 3 cables here, and this is how I set up that automatic failover network. You can see the blue cables in the photo I've just shown you, and the blue cable ones is that OPT1 cable in this graph. So, and there are 2 ISP connected to the server network now. Usually, traffic goes through ISP B because the network speed is faster. ISP A is quite unstable, and their line speed is lower too. So that acts as a backup network. So only if ISP B malfunctions or disconnects, it will switch to ISP A. And the switch is being controlled in the NetGate router. And once there's something wrong in ISP B, it would automatically switch through the OPT1 cable to ISP A. Yeah, I did this setup in August or July. I don't remember, but it did save one network outage of ISP B once in November. That was due to a failing modem in ISP B. And everything just works automatically. I don't even notice that there was an network outage. So the IP address got updated, and the default gateway is updated automatically. So things just work out smoothly. Yeah. The reason why I set up this network change is that in May, or maybe throughout the entire month, there were multiple network outage of ISP A and B both, and the failover was just have to be done manually. Yeah, but then I was at work, so I'm too busy to manually switch the server's default gateway from one to another. So having things automatically would probably help saving some downtime. Yeah, because for a few days in that month, having downtime over 6 to 8 hours would be an issue for the search engine, because the Telegram bot would retry failed network requests. So when the server is down, it would accumulate a lot of search traffic, and then when the server is back online, there would be an inrush traffic for like 1 to 2 hours that Telegram's API server is retrying those previous failed requests that would overrun the server and knock down the database, and everything just overload for a few hours until it's back to normal. So it's better to make sure the downtime is as little as possible. About the cost, quite a number of you would ask how much of this entire stuff cost. And for now, the monthly cost is about $100 per month. This is in USD. Yeah, in USD. So power is the largest part of monthly cost, and for the rest, actually not that much, because the server is being hosted in my place. So I don't have to rent a cloud server, but I have to pay the power and network cost. Yeah. So the biggest cost is the hardware cost, but I don't have an actual number of how much hardware I've spent on this project, because it is hard to count. I reuse some old parts, or I share some parts of my own, so it is hard to give an actual figure of how much in total. Yeah, but must be over $5,000 USD total for 5 years. Yeah. But there are also donations that cover the cost, mostly from Patreon. There is also some from GitHub and PayPal. Thank you very much for your donations, and that actually save that can barely cover the monthly cost of running the server. Yeah, so on average we'll be doing fine, but for hardware upgrades, it depends on how much I can spare for new hardware parts. So if you want a faster search engine, a more powerful search engine, then you may need to donate so I can spare more on better new hardware parts. Yeah, but so far it's running fine. So as I look through the previous presentation slides of last 5 years, I've gathered a list of what I've ever promised to do, and let's see how much I've completed. So previously planned works, I have to clean up some badly written source code. Partially, yes, I think. Yeah, cause back then the setup was chaotic. There was shell script, Python script, a bit of JavaScript, and a mix of PHP. There are many different languages, different programs written in different language, and the setup is very chaotic. But with the release of Solar, I think this has mostly been cleaned up, and most of them are now written in JavaScript now. So should be mostly completed now, I think. Clean up some misplaced enemy, and that's true. Especially this year, I've cleaned up almost, I think, 2/3 of the original enemy, and duplicated enemies are also removed, with soft enemies being replaced by original rolled enemy. So you should be seeing a lot less soft enemies preview now. Cantonese API 2 updated. Firefox add-on. This has been completed with a web extension which is compatible with Firefox, Chrome, and Opera. This free browser's extension actually shares the same API, so one set of source code serve for free browsers. Yeah, so that has been completed. Facebook bot's approval of the Messenger bot, so I gave up this one, and then sorry. If you are interested in developing Messenger bot, then you can still try, but I gave up. Develop more IM bots was once my target, but it seems that I better focus on improving the search engine itself and leave these applications of third-party bots to other developers. Yeah, because I don't think I have that much time to maintain different kinds of IM bots, because every IM bots have their own API and have their updates, changes, and if I have to manage all of them, then I would be out of time. So no more on that. New image descriptor. Originally planned one is FCTH, but after some trial and experiments, I figured out that JCD seems to be a better candidate than the FCTH. So I will consider that completed. Upgrade to latest version of Solar also completed. Reindex everything of inaccurate time code. Well, back in the early days of the search engine's indexing script, there were some bugs that filling the time code with undefined or nan or something like that. Some wrong time code, and the source code was updated and fixed that issue later, but some of the already indexed enemy still has such problem, and those should have been fixed with every index recently. Yeah. Also buy a fast server for now, yes, but for future, I think this is always something that has to be done. Always not fast enough, I think. Move to a new domain. Yes, I know that .ga has been not always has. .ga has been a free domain and is quite unreliable, so I should move to the new domain earlier. But anyway, it has been done, and we should keep using the same domain now, so no more work on that. Rebuild front end. With mobile support and dark mode, I think this is mostly completed. Yeah, not much change on the web front end now. Users account and bookmark scene was a feature that I planned to do, but I think this is not a thing that is most important. because whenever I have to store user data, then there are many things I have to take into consideration. What if user lost their password, or what is their permission, or how does users access, or things like that. There are many things that isn't quite related to the service itself. And bookmarking a scene is also something potentially would potentially violate some copyright issues, I think. Yes, because the main purpose of the website is to tell you the moment of that scene, not to let you enjoy the scene. Yeah, so no. Tutorials for setting up and running the system locally should be written in API docs and many of the readmes.md in various repositories. So in case there are anything that is unclear, maybe open an issue on GitHub so I can follow up. And better communication with whoever interested, like a blog or channel or chat room or something. For now we have a Discord server, and that seems to be the most active place for discussion now. There is also Telegram channel, but Telegram channel is a one-way communication way and not quite suitable for discussion. There is also a Patreon page, but Patreon page isn't quite active, and since if you are not Patreon, you won't go check that website. So that is semi-active now. And there was a Facebook fan page, but I don't often check that page, so it's kind of abandoned now. See if this YouTube channel would be a place for information, discussion, sharing, or something. Haven't decided yet, but at least it is a new way of communication. Maybe some of the users found that watching video is better than watching text. I know there are different people of different types. Some may want to read text, some want to listen, or some just want to watch video. So I will provide more ways of communication as much as possible, so I can get feedback from users and let users know what I'm thinking. Still ways for improvement in this area, I think, too. Increase database coverage, adding more enemy titles. Mostly completed. Mostly. I think enemies since year 2000 are more comprehensive, but before year 2000 is still hard to find. Yeah, and while I clean up those enemy with subtitles, I also increased the coverage of both TV version and DVD or Blu-ray versions. So in case there are visual difference between TV version and the Blu-ray or DVD versions, it should still came out from the database. Should be better now, I think. And duplicates in database, there was versions of different subgroups, but there's kind of technical debt, not technical debt, maybe data debt. Data debt. Okay, so that has been cleaned up, and in case there is still enemy with subtitles, that would be cleaned up as soon as possible now. Yeah, so this helped reduce the database size quite a lot. Yeah, but overall increase in enemy series coverage results in an overall increase in database size. So there isn't much room for removing duplicates now. So I expect the size would continue to increase. So new planet works. I bet I better write some test case for the API servers, cause recently there has been quite a lot of developers reported that the API doesn't work as expected, especially when they use the file upload method or the form post method to post an image, or if the image is of a malformed format, the server would report an error message, and developers doesn't know the actual reason why. And I'm not that confident that the source code are bug-free, so better write test cases and give examples to other developers so that they can reference to how to use the API properly. Yeah, and second thing, migrate from PHP to Node.js or something else. Currently, the front end of the web page, also the API is also written in PHP. But PHP just released version 8, and I have to figure out whether I should upgrade to support PHP 8 or move to another language. Or probably Node.js isn't a good language for backend service, or maybe I have to split the API and the front end. Haven't decided exactly which language should I use, but there are some progress in separating the API from PHP to Node.js already. So see how it performs, and if it doesn't perform well, maybe I have to switch to maybe Rust or Go. I haven't decided yet, but it has to be away from PHP, I think. Yeah, because that isn't a good language for serving a microservice. Yeah, and the setup is quite complex, and if you read the source code of trace.moe, it is kind of ugly. Third point, cross-reference results from qual layout and JCD. This is one of the features that can help removing inaccurate results or wrong results. The idea is that if I search one image using two different image descriptors, and if the results from two algorithms are different, then potentially this result isn't quite accurate. Yeah, and if both results align, then it's quite highly possible that this is a correct result. Yeah, so this may be a way to help separating a match or mismatch. Of course, it's come as a cost that it takes more computing power, so I haven't decided how to implement that yet. Whether the default behavior is to use both or just use one, or use one and then fall back to another. Another issue is a search queue. Currently, the server has quite a repeatable pattern of rush hour. Every night, the server would receive a lot more traffic at night, and sometimes it would hit the server so hard that would take the server offline, or take the database offline. And in that case, maybe a search queue to queue up the search requests when the database is busy and then process them one by one would probably be a solution. Maybe. Yeah, but it's still a rough idea for now. Not sure if it's practical, but has to be something that's worth investigating. Migrate to cloud partially. If possible, I want to migrate everything on cloud, but it is too expensive to rent such a powerful server. So maybe only migrate the front end or the Telegram bot servers, the web page, and all of these servers on cloud except the database and the file server. Yeah, cause the most expensive one, I would like to keep them locally for now, until I figure out a cheap way of hosting those powerful databases. Yeah, still I need a new server, I think, cause I think it is already reached the maximum potential now. Yeah, and instead of seeing some bottlenecks in the I/O network memory, I think the bottleneck now is on the CPU. Yeah, not because of its raw computing power, but because the search engine is getting popular and it has to deal with more concurrent search requests now. So it's not about serving a single user now. It's about serving parallel concurrent users. So I have to look into how to scale it horizontally. So this is the plan. I think we have almost come to the end, and these are the project URLs I published on GitHub. You can see that the image proxy source code is also there, but it is not in use actually. This is an archive proxy. So you can take that as a reference, but it's not the actual code being run on Cloudflare workers. I still have to think of a way how to share that source code, because Cloudflare's worker source code is actually just a single file. It's a serverless framework. So keep looking. I will think of a way of sharing that source code too. Official channels, we have Patreon, Discord, Telegram, and an abandoned Facebook page. This year, Google also shut down its Google Plus service, so the Google Plus community has also been shut down. And if you want discussion, join the Discord channel. This is the invitation link. And if you have Telegram, you can subscribe to the Telegram What Enemy Updates channel. You can see the latest enemy being indexed. And I will also share server issues like server downtime or maintenance schedule on that channel. And for Patreon, I will usually share feature updates to this project. Lastly, credits. So thank you for Dr. Matthias Lux for Lyra project. That is the most magical part in this project, because that is the image recognition, image comparison magic that happens in that Solr to power this enemy search engine. And also thank analyst.co for providing enemy info. And I have to thank you, Ryu, for helping me to manage the Discord channel. I don't often show up in Discord because it's not my primary communication channel. So thank you for helping me to manage that, like answering questions from different users and develop and maintain that bot for other enemy fans. I also have to thank you sponsors from Patreon, GitHub and PayPal. And also thank you for helping me answering questions in different channels. Yeah, there are questions that came from various parts of the world, some not asked in English or in other language or in channels like Telegram. I even see questions on Stack Overflow asking how to use that API. And there are fans or some kind people who help me answering those questions. So thank you. I actually don't have that much time to answer that much questions. So thank you very much for your help. Also have to thank you those who report bugs to me and issues and suggestions of improvements to me. I did receive some important security issues from some of my users, and thank you for being honest. And if you haven't reported those security issues to me, then my servers will probably in trouble. So thank you very much. Okay, lastly, my self-introduction. So, thank you for listening until the very end. I intentionally put this about me section at the very end. Because I believe that if you are interested, you will stay behind until the end. So I put this in the very last slide. So my name is Soluli desu. Yeah, this is the actual pronunciation of my name. And my age is over 18 years old. That's it. Yeah. My height is 155 cm. Weight. Anyway, I am light. I'm not heavy. The things that I like: anime, slice of life, day-to-day anime. I also like rhythm games, like programming, sweet foods, sweet stuff, anything that is sweet. And I love fluffy things. So thank you very much for coming today. I believe that you are going to have a lot of different activities or other stuff to do tonight, by the end of the year. So I haven't decided what kind of video I will share in my channel. If you have any suggestions, you may raise it to me. So can't think of anything to say now, but there is one thing I want to do, because I receive quite a lot of interesting Telegram message in my private account. I wish to share that. Maybe I will leave it to another stream. Yeah, so if you want to know more, follow me on Twitter or GitHub and subscribe to my channel. So thank you very much for coming and wish all of you a happy new year. So see you. Bye bye.